So is my screen visible? Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, cool. So I have decided the session for two lectures. Today we will be talking about general quantitative data analysis and types of variables that we covered last time. A little bit of analysis on the file that you have hopefully downloaded now. And the second lecture will be more about bivariate analysis. So this will be about univariate analysis in which we will analyze single variables. And in the next lecture, we will try to do bivariate analysis. And these are very simplistic analysis, and and this is not a statistics class also. So we will be going and touching the basics. But if anyone of you is doing any data analytic thing and want to come back and discuss something, I will be happy to discuss. Okay, great. So last week I had shared an article which talked about R versus Python. How many of you read it? None of you?
I don't know.
What did you find out, dear?
Uh, like there are very much similarities, but people shifting from Python to R are less compared to the people who are shifting from R to Python.
Yeah.
And more like statistical analysis, R would be more preferable.
Yeah.
And the people who are coming from the programming background will prefer Python.
Hmm.
Yeah, like but most of them can handle most of the issues and all.
Yeah. Very good, Harshita. Anyone else read it who wants to share their views or questions? So do make out time to read that infographic which compares R with Python and essentially depends on the problem we are trying to solve. And based on that, we choose whether we need Python or R. And it is good to know both the softwares. You know, the beauty of knowing two softwares to do the same thing is that you can always cross check. And when you cross check and results differ, then you can be sure that something is not right at either places. But if they match, there are high chances that you have done right, even though it can happen that both have been done in the wrong way. So knowing two softwares is a good thing to know. So for example, I use R and I also use Stata, and I analyze both the data sets. So same data set in both the softwares, and I try to compare the results. So that gives me a bit of confidence that maybe the results are right or wrong. So similarly, you can also do the same. So it's good to know both the languages. Python is being preferred these days because if you want to integrate your statistical solution to your website or to some software that you are making, then Python wins over R. And R itself has its own advantages that it was created to mainly be a statistical tool, and it's quite robust as compared to Python, and the libraries that are released much earlier in R than in any other language. And R is of course open source and its community is really nice, and it is mostly used in universities for academic research abroad. So I think it's always up to you, but if curiosity takes better of you, it would be not a bad idea to explore both. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so that was about R and Python. And R was mainly designed to be a language for statistical analysis. So it's quite vast in that domain. And in R, we again work with packages. So packages have different functions, and we have to load those packages in our R workspace to be able to carry out the functions. Like in LaTeX, we were using use package command. In R also we have to load the packages and the libraries associated with them come in our environment, and then we can use the functions in them. This we have already discussed. R has high statistical support. Python is more of an OOPS type of language, and Python is mostly used when data analysis is part of a larger web-based solution. So if you are maintaining some kind of product or company, or you're trying to create an end-to-end solution, then and if you want to show some prototype or demonstration, definitely Python will be a good choice. But R also has a Shiny package which allows you to make web-based APIs also. So all the functionalities are there. But then again, it's a matter of learning curve also and convenience and of course background also. So for these sessions, because I will be using R. For those who are already familiar with Python, they must try to do what we are doing here, both in R also in Python also, so that you can get a taste of both. So hopefully you have downloaded this CSV. I am yet to upload this hyperlink. I will do that. So from the classroom, and if you open your R workspace, so can you see my R workspace?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so here go to files and go to that folder where you have downloaded your data.csv. So here in my, this is the data.csv, and so go to that folder. This is the address, and you should be able to see data.csv. And then here you can click on more and then set it as working directory. So what will happen is that you don't have to type the entire path. You can just reference the files directly from this. Done till now? Let me know if when you are done
No,
with
ma'am.
that step. Yeah.
Ma'am, can you please show it once again?
So is my
Till now.
screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
So here, if you click on the files, you will see some kind of address. You have to identify that folder where you have downloaded this data.csv. So maybe it's in downloads folder, or if you've kept on your desktop. So just go to that folder and open that folder in this workspace, and you should be able to see data.csv. So for example, if I go to home, because that is my root, and then I search for downloads, and if my work is in research, so here, uh, hopefully here is the file that I had saved, data.csv. So similarly, go to this folder, click on more, and then set this as working directory. So you don't have to then write the entire path to load. Was it clear now?
Ma'am, my screen is not blue in color, it's white in color. So am I on the wrong screen?
Uh, no, you want to share your screen?
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, give me a few minutes now.
Yeah. Rest everybody is able to follow?
Ma'am, mine is white as well, ma'am, not blue.
Actually, that is just a editor setting I have changed. It is supposed to be white only. Anyone else facing any problem?
Ma'am, the data.csv file you have shared with us.
Yes. It's on the classroom.
Okay, ma'am.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
When I am installing the Python, my last step is only pending. It is asking regarding, sorry, for R. Python is already there, right? And my network is also slow. Select components. It is asking to I have to select, since my computer is laptop is 64-bit. So I will select that thing. Core files and message translation. 32-bit I have to exclude, na.
You are using Python or R?
Python I already have.
Okay.
R I'm trying to install
Right.
because yeah, I want to learn R also.
Yeah.
So that is yes, ma'am. तो उसमें मैम एक R है setup for R Windows, right? The
हाँ.
user installation is there, right? Core files I have take that.
Hmm.
64-bit is my system, so I have take that file. 64-bit files, message translation I have take, and there are 32-bit files that I have to untick, right?
32-bit files.
हाँ, it is.
And the other option is 64-bit files.
Yes, files, core files, and message translations,
So if yours is 64, then go for 64.
and rest all three I have to select, right?
Yeah.
Okay, 150. And after that, it is asking, is please specify yes or no, then customize startup or accept defaults.
It's always fine to go with defaults.
Go with defaults. Okay. Okay.
Anaconda में install कर रहे हो?
No, ma'am.
या standalone?
Standalone कर रहा हूँ.
Okay.
हाँ.
पहले
Standalone.
कर लेना
Okay.
चाहिए था ये.
Ma'am, this ma'am.
So who was facing that problem? Who was supposed to share the screen?
Yes, ma'am, I'm sharing it now.
Rest everyone, are you able to reach to that folder and set it as working directory? Give me some response so that I can know where we are.
Yes, ma'am.
So my screen is visible or my screen is not visible.
It is not visible, ma'am.
Tanisha, maybe I can help you. Right now, try to follow. Then we can sit with you. Will that be fine? Okay. I think we got disconnected. So for those of you who have already downloaded and set it as a working directory, so let's say I give my database the name DTA and I am trying to read this file. So this is how we read a .csv file in R. And I will share the working code also. For now, just try to understand what is happening. So when I load this file, it is already loaded in my working directory, and here also in my environment I can see that this data file has been there. It has this many observations of 10 variables. 4 lakh, approx 4 lakh observations for 10 variables. So 10 variables means 10 columns. And I can also look at a brief chunk of my data. And this is how it is. So there is variable, these are the variable names: sex, age, general health indicator of the person, whether the person has high cholesterol or not, whether the person has high blood pressure or not, diabetes presence, the age at which the diabetes was contracted, whether the person exercises or not, and the BMI of the person. So these are the variables that we will be. Yeah,
Ma'am, your screen is the zoom. Can you make it a bit bigger? It is.
दिख नहीं रहा है?
मैम स्मॉल आ रहा है, बहुत छोटे से आ रहा है वो. आई
Okay.
थिंक. यस मैम.
अभी दिख रहा है?
एक्चुअली जूम बस छोटा आ रहा है मैम, आपका ही आ रहा है छोटा, मतलब अर्लियर फुल स्क्रीन पे नहीं आ रहा है मैम, जैसे आता है नॉर्मल थिंग्स.
I think it's never full screen. Is it? Is it ever full screen?
I think you'll have to pin
Yeah.
it. Actually, I tried sharing my screen, but then I think you couldn't see my screen, so then I stopped sharing.
Okay. We will come back to you. Are you able to figure out the solution?
Ma'am, I'm trying. Maybe I'll ask you later at the end.
Yeah. Is my screen any better now?
Yes मैम, 100% better.
Okay, ठीक है. So these are the variables that we will be talking about today, and that is why I have split the session into two. क्योंकि एक ही session में if we talk everything, then it will be very difficult for both the parties. So and so this data has been taken from a USA website, and that website has a code book for every data source, and so these are the variables which will be found in this data.csv. The data is collected from Center of Disease Control and Prevention USA. So now before we analyze any data set, we must know what is the nature of our variables. Here we have 10 variables. So one by one, we will try to understand what is the nature of these variables. Because once we identify how our variables are, then we can think about the analysis that will happen for these variables and how we can analyze them. So we will be doing a small activity, and we will be categorizing these previous variables into 4 categories, 5 categories, whether they are quantitative continuous, quantitative categorical, qualitative categorical, nominal, or ordinal. Now, before I start, I would like to understand your baseline comprehension of these categories of variables. So what is a quantitative continuous variable, and give me an example. If this is not clear, I will not proceed. So, is my question clear?
Velocity.
Yeah, go on.
Ma'am, can velocity be a quantitative continuous variable?
Yeah, so what will be the likely values of velocity?
Distance and time and the direction.
Yeah, so it can range from positive numbers, decimal form, or whole form. Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
so that qualifies as a quantitative continuous because it's on a continuous spectrum, and the value of velocity as a magnitude has a meaning also. Let's say speed. If velocity is a vector, so speed could be a quantitative continuous variable. Any other variable you can think of which looks like that it can be used to substantiate what is a quantitative continuous variable?
Maybe age also.
Which lecture is this? We are in the which week of our RM?
Oh.
So I don't want to hear maybes. I want to hear definitive answers. Yes, so age is a quantitative continuous variable. Very well taken. If it's mentioned in days, months, years, or weeks, that qualifies as a quantitative continuous variable. Now let us think about the quantitative categorical variable. So it has a word quantitative also and categorical also. So what is it that you can think of which falls into this category?
Number of teeth,
Number of,
teeth, tooth
yeah.
in the mouth.
So here the number of categories will range from what? What would be the range of categories?
Like a small kid when he loses all the teeth, like 0 to maximum of 32.
32, right. So generally when we talk about categories, when categories exceed 5 or 6, we generally consider it as a quantitative continuous variable. Okay. So for example, if you were to group the age into 4 categories, less than 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and 40 above. So these would be 5 age categories. But because the number of tooth are more in categories up to 32, so it will be slightly awkward to make 32 categories. So instead we always go, so for the case of teeth, we will consider them as quantitative continuous variable.
Oh,
Is the distinction clear there?
yes, ma'am.
So what could be other quantitative categorical? So think about where the number of categories are less. The example was fine, the categories was high, that is why we decided continuous.
Gender.
Yeah,
Gender.
gender, yes. So what will be the values of gender? What will be the categories?
Male or female.
Are these the only categories? So as a researcher, you have to think about people whom you will be surveying, and you have to give representation also. So male, female, or other, or non-binary. So there would be 5, 6 categories. And if you categorize them as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then that would become a quantitative categorical variable. But there is a difference here. The difference is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 does not mean anything. And for the categories to mean, because 1 is not less than 2, even though numerically it is, but male and female, we are identifying them by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here the numbers do not mean anything. So the quantitative aspect of quantitative categorical is shadowed. It would fall into the qualitative categorical variable. Right? For quantitative categorical, you have to think of categories in which the categories are numbers, but the numbers also mean something. So for example, age categories 18 to 24, 25 to 34, 35 to 44, 45 to 54, 55 to 64, and 65 above. So these are the 6 categories. And if I give category 1 as 18 to 24 and category 2 as 25 to 34, then here not only I have identified the different categories, but here I can be sure that someone who belongs to category 1 has less age than category 2, and category 6 has higher age than all the other categories. So here the nature of variable is categorical also, but it is of a quantitative nature. The number has a meaning. Is this clear?
I mean, you can say hair color also, right?
But hair color, how will you identify the categories? Black,
So
brown, red, and all?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The variation. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, but where is the quantitative component in these hair colors?
It's nominal, no?
Yes. So
Okay.
those variables will be, so qualitative categorical variables or nominal are usually used interchangeably. The distinction which is very important to understand between the variables which are categorical but of quantitative nature and the variables which are categorical but not necessarily the numbers mean quantity. It comes from the variable itself. So we have to look at the variable values and try to understand. So male and female, if male is 1, female is 2, here 1, 2 does not mean anything, even though there is a quantity, but there is actually not a quantity, it's just a digit. So that will be a nominal variable or a qualitative categorical variable. Qualitative because the number do not mean anything. However, if say for example the number of children a couple has, and if it ranges from 0 to 7 or 0 to 4, then it will be a quantitative categorical variable. Is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions? Anyone has any confusions? It is very important to understand the nature of variables before you get your hands dirty on the analysis. Okay. So nominal also I hopefully is clear. So the hair color, Sashwat, would probably a nominal variable.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And what about the ordinal variable? Who would give me an
Ranking,
example? Yeah. Give me an example.
like a rating in the from the customers in the hotel, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and one standing the least, and 5 standing for the highest rating.
Yeah. And one aspect of nominal ordinal variables is also that we don't know whether the difference between 1 and 2 is same as 2 and 3. I'm not sure if that happens in rating also, but mostly ordinal variables do signify some hierarchy, but the difference between the two consecutive hierarchical units may or may not be constant. If they are constant, then it becomes interval level variable.
Ma'am, ordinal can also be recalled as Likert scale, right? Ordinal scale.
Yeah, Likert scale, yes.
Sorry, Likert scale. Huh?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yes,
So
ma'am.
Likert scale, for those of you who don't know, so if you have ever filled a survey which asks you question, like they give you a statement and then ask you how much you agree or disagree. So agree, strongly agree, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree. This is a kind of Likert scale in which we know that from agree to strongest disagree there is a hierarchy, but we don't know what if the difference between agree and strongly agree is equal to the difference between strongly agree and neutral. So when these definitions are hazy, but there is still a hierarchy, we consider them as ordinal variables. So then the classification of variables, this is the broad level. Is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now one by one we will look at the definitions of the variables that we have taken in our dataset. Whenever you take a dataset or download it from somewhere, always try to search for its code book or some explanation in which the variable definitions are shared, because from there you will identify the nature of the variable. Sometimes definitions are not available, then we have to look into the data and look at the values of the variables, essentially which is called as summarizing the variables. When we summarize the variable by different means and methods, we are able to accurately understand what could be the nature of the variable. So for example, so this is the variable for sex, and that was the question that was asked. Look at how people ask question in USA when it comes to sex. They're very precise people. So here the answers. So the question asked is, what was your sex at birth? Was it male or female? And these are the possible values of the variable birth sex. 1 means male, 2 means female, 7 means don't know, not sure, it's 15.15%, and 9 just refused. So after looking at the definition of this variable, what do you think will be the nature of this variable from the previous discussion we just had?
Nominal.
Yeah,
Qualitative categorical.
qualitative categorical, yes. So these two will be the main categories in which this variable can fall into place. Is it clear for everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, next, look at this definition of age. So, this is the derived variable for age. So, they must have asked the age question as directly, but then they tried to categorize the variable for age and they arrived with these categories. What do you think would be the nature of this variable?
Qualitative, categorical.
And why do you think so?
Now, because it has values like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
But here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 actually means something.
Then it will be quantitative, ma'am.
Yeah. Because here the values actually have a meaning.
So that will be quantitative then.
Yeah. So it will be a quantitative categorical variable. Everyone on the same page on this one? Any confusions? Anyone
No,
who thinks
no, ma'am.
differently? Anyone who thinks this is an ordinal variable? So we will go with the fact that it is quantitative categorical variable. If, however, there were no categories and the variables, the values ranged from 18 to 65 or older, what would be the nature of the variable? If I got rid of the categories and I just put age as it is, then what would be the nature?
It will have the rankings. So it will be that last option. I forgot the name, but
It will be ordinal, ma'am.
Why?
Because there is a scale, ma'am. The
No, but
age group is divided. Huh?
no, but if I remove the categories 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I directly put the age of the person,
Oh,
qualitative.
Ma'am, continuous.
yeah, so it will be quantitative continuous variable because now it is reduced to a number. Age as a number. When I'm removing the categories, now I'm directly putting the ages 23, 24, 25, 26, 35, 36. So this becomes a variable on a quantitative continuous scale. Always remember the word qualitative will refer to something which is non numeric, which has no numeric meaning. Here it has a numeric meaning. That is why we will say it is quantitative categorical. If there are 6 categories, if I remove the categories and I replace these categories by the actual ages of people, it will be continuous on a quantitative scale. So qualitative means has non-numeric connotations. You should always remember that. Clear till here? Don't worry.
Ma'am, what changes to be made to make it as ordinal, ma'am?
Ordinal.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe for age we may not be able to convert it to ordinal, but what we can do is less than 5 years of age, more than 5, but less than 30, and greater than 30. But even then, if there are 3 categories, you know, the difference between the categories will not be same. So I don't think age as a variable can ever be in ordinal in nature.
Okay.
It always has a number component involved with it, and that number has a meaning.
Ma'am, but if we try and divide age like childhood, adolescent,
Definitely.
youth, and old age, for
Yeah.
example,
Definitely. Excellent.
then
Yeah,
then we can say it's an ordinal.
absolutely. Absolutely. We can. Good example. Then we can say. But then there you see, we have got rid of the numbers. We have identified the definitions. And then ultimately we are using these qualitative categories. So the
Okay.
usage will be very different. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Hmm. So we have covered 2 variables. This is the third variable. It is about the general health of the respondent. So the question the person is supposed to answer is that would you say that in general your health is what? Is it excellent, very good, good, fair, poor, don't know, refused, or blank? What is the kind of variable this one is?
Ma'am, if you take only these options,
Yes.
excellent, very good, and good, then it is 100% ordinal because it is a scale.
But
The-
the
yeah.
values range from 1 to 5, and 7 and 9 are non-valid values.
Hello, yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Last
go
point.
on. Yeah, so we have 5 categories here.
Yes, ma'am.
So what do you think is the? You're right, it is ordinal, but
Yes, ma'am.
even if we have fair and poor categories, then also it remains ordinal
Yes, ma'am.
because fair is obviously worse than good and poor is worst of all. You see, there is a decreasing tendency of general health as one moves from 1 to 5.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So
Starting
there
from
is a
excellent.
ranking obviously. So person who says that his or her general health is 1 has obviously better general health status than someone who says it's 3. So there is a ranking.
Yes,
Everybody
ma'am.
agrees to this?
Yes, ma'am.
So this will be an ordinal variable. Harshita, is it clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. And the don't know, refused, and blank, we will come to these. Because when we analyze variables, we have to remove all those cases. So, for example, if I have to clean the general health variable, I will have to remove all those values which are either 7, 9, or blank, so that I am left with only the valid values for my analysis. What is this kind of variable? So it asks whether the person was ever told that he or she had high blood cholesterol.
Ma'am, qualitative categorical because if the person has high blood pressure or not.
Yes, yes, and another another category also will apply.
Nominal.
Nominal. Yes. So this is the categorical variable, or sometimes instead of saying qualitative categorical, we can just say categorical. And when people can actually look at the values and then identify whether this categorical variable will be treated as qualitative categorical or quantitative categorical. Clear to everyone till here? If there are any questions, please feel free to stop me. I will be releasing a quiz only on the nature of variables. Only, no other question.
Ma'am, why it is nominal? I don't able to understand this.
So who will explain to Shashwat why is it nominal? Yeah, would you like to try?
Yes, ma'am. As blood pressure is a like if we want to classify someone whether the person has a high blood pressure or not, there is some kind of threshold, right? So it's so if some value is higher, the blood pressure value will be higher than the person has a high blood pressure, and if it's lower than the threshold, it's low. It's less not high blood pressure, right? So there is two category of people, high blood pressure or not.
Yeah.
So they likewise it's categorical, but the value doesn't mean anything. Like the person having a blood pressure is given 1 and not having is 2, but that 1 and 2 does not mean anything in the analysis.
Thank you, Ria. So, Shashwat, this is basically a type of yes-no question.
Okay, ma'am. Hmm.
So, yes-no is always nominal or categorical. Either you
Okay.
have blood cholesterol, you don't have blood cholesterol.
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And it is always decided on the basis of a threshold, as Ria pointed out. So, yes-no
Yeah.
questions are always nominal. Okay.
Oh, okay, ma'am.
Hmm. What about this one? Have you ever been told by your doctor or health professional if you have high blood pressure? How many categories can you see here?
9.
9 categories. How?
I'm looking at the value, ma'am.
No, so look at the question and look at the values. So values are 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 9. It's not a continuous scale. So how many categories do you see? In how many ways people can answer this question if they have ever been told they had high blood pressure?
6.
And what are those 6 categories?
It will be 4
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
7 and 9 are not like either they have not answered or refused or like it's missing.
Yeah. So what are those 4 categories?
Ma'am, it will be like if they were told you have a blood pressure, so yes.
Yeah.
Other will be during pregnancy, what you told whether you had a high blood pressure, and other is like no go. I don't know what it is this, but the third value one, and the fourth one is borderline. So like they are not actually near to the threshold, but not above it.
Yeah. Right. So for this response, it is a nominal variable with 4 categories. Either the person can respond that he or she has high blood pressure, or yes, if it's a female and it is gestational high blood pressure, that is during the pregnancy. Third means categorically no, that person did not have high blood pressure, and this is around 57% of people did not have any high blood pressure. And this go to section, this means that they will actually be asking about their cholesterol value. So it's a follow up question to those who have answered no. It means that. Okay. The fourth is that they don't have high blood pressure, but they don't entirely don't have, they are borderline cases. So this particular variable, it is not just yes and no like the previous one. It actually has expanded its yes no and introduced 2 more categories. So here, if the female says yes, then it is not during the pregnancy. But if the female says yes and she is pregnant, then she will belong to category 2, because pregnant women are also going through lots of changes in their body, so they are analyzed in a very different manner than ladies who have the disease condition but are not going through pregnancy. So this kind of variable will be nominal in nature. Are we all together in this one? Is it clear
Yes, ma'am.
to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If there are any questions and you feel hesitant to ask, you can always ask me later. But it's good to discuss in the class. Others can also learn from your confusions. Okay. So now about this variable. How will you classify it as? And tell me the number of categories also.
Ma'am, here also there are 4 categories
Yeah.
because seventh and ninth they are refused to or they don't know regarding that
Right. Right.
situation. Yes, ma'am. Or a category. So there are 4 categories.
Okay. And if you are doing research only on diabetic and non-diabetic people, then what will you do?
On these parameters,
So this the variable has 4 categories, right?
yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
no, gestational, and borderline, which is borderline diabetes is also called as pre-diabetes. So if you were to work only with, so if you were to predict only diabetic cases and non-diabetic cases, then you will have to essentially remove the other 2 categories also from your data set. So you will be keeping only variables respondents with values 1 and 3, 2, 4, 7, 9, and blank you will discard. in data processing. Clear?
Not clear, ma'am.
Okay.
Last point. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm saying if you were to analyze from this data set, so first we can see that there are only four categories. These are garbage values. We don't need them. But out of even those four values, if I were to use only, so my research involves if only people who have diabetic or who don't have diabetic, and I'm not bothered about women who have diabetes during pregnancy. So I don't want this two category. I don't want this fourth category. So I'm not handling pre-diabetic people. I'm not handling females. I just want these two values, yes and no. So essentially, in data processing, I will further again remove all the records which have the variable value 2 or 4 for this particular variable. Why? Because now I'm concerned only with value 1 and 3 for my analysis. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. What about this one?
Continuous from 1 to 97.
Yeah. It is continuous variable or quantitative continuous variable, and it is discrete in nature. There are no decimal values here. So the values range from 1 to 97. Even though they are discrete, we cannot say 97 categories because it's way more to be a quantitative categorical variable. So we understand it as a continuous scale variable. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
This variable asks if people do any kind of exercise or not. So it's a yes and no question. And yes and no questions provide which kind of variables?
Nominal.
Nominal. Yeah, or we can always say binary categorical also. So it's nominal or categorical. This value.
Continuous.
Yeah, it's a quantitative continuous variable. And notice that the values range from 1 to 9,999. And in the bracket, it says has two implied decimal places. So what it means is that when you actually analyze your variable, what you will be doing is you will be dividing it by 100 so that the values can, because there is no possibility of BMI being up to four figures, right? So when it says, so that is why looking at the definitions of variables in codebook is so important. So when you actually include this variable, you will be dividing it by 100. So this was the exercise we have completed. And here you can see and we can verify that sex we identified as a categorical variable and also as a nominal variable. Age, on the other hand, was categorical and quantitative in nature. General health was, I've put it as categorical also and ordinal also, and both are acceptable. But obviously, ordinal is more precise. So here we are just trying to understand which all categories can be applicable to all these variables. Blood pressure, which asks yes and no, again nominal or categorical qualitative. Diabetes, similarly. Diabetes age, on the other hand, was a continuous variable, similarly for BMI. And exercise was again yes and no question. So it was nominal or qualitative category. So this table is clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Please take your time to just go through the table. If there is any discrepancy you feel or you don't understand the logic, please ask.
Ma'am, what is diabetes
The
variable?
age at which a person got diabetes.
Okay.
So you want to see the definition? This was the definition. Look at the definition. How old were you when you were told you had diabetes? So this is the value 1 to 97. Rest values 98 means don't know, 99 refuse. So all the valid values rise in this range 1 to 97. So it's basically a numerical scale. That is why it's a continuous variable. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Any other doubts, confusions?
So, ma'am, basically, like if we're able to classify it as qualitative categorical, then there are high chances that it is either nominal or ordinal.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
it right, ma'am?
True, very true.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Good observation. Any other question or comment anyone wants to make or ask any question? This should be very clear before we move on to the next steps. Don't worry, we'll do an exercise also to understand, then it will become more clear in your quiz. So now, why we did all that exercise to identify the nature of variable is because when we do univariate analysis, so univariate means before we do any kind of analysis, we always have to go through each variable singularly and try to understand it before we combine it with other variables. This is called as univariate analysis. It is the first step. What kind of statistics it is? It is a descriptive statistics or it's an inferential statistics? We had discussed there are two types of statistics in the previous lecture, descriptive or inferential. So when we analyze a particular variable, what is it we are doing? We are trying to describe the variable. We are not trying to infer anything at the moment. No hypothesis testing is going on. We are trying to understand the nature of the variable. And hence it is a descriptive statistics. I'm yet to release the quiz on the last one, but I will, so that basic understanding is achieved. So we saw that sex is a categorical variable. So obviously we can best understand it only by tabulating it. So we tabulate it, and one means male in that data set and two means female. So when we tabulate it, we can see that these many numbers are males and these many numbers are females. So any variable which is categorical, nominal, ordinal, or qualitative categorical, or even quantitative categorical, when we tabulate them, we can understand the number of records which belong to each category. This is the command in R. After the lecture, you can actually try this command directly. The dataset is ready to be analyzed. But obviously, you will see some other categories also if there are refused or don't know categories. Then there will be more than two categories. Then you will have to remove those categories for final analysis. The second command, what it does is it creates the proportion table for this particular table, which is the same command, and gives me the percentage. And I have rounded this to 2. So that means approx 45% of people in the dataset are male and 55% are female. So this is how I summarize a categorical variable. Always, irrespective of the platform, independent of the platform. When you see a categorical variable, you want to see what is happening in the dataset, you tabulate it. Tabulating the variable will tell you how many records lie in a particular category. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sometimes we will also see in summary the blank, missing, and NA values that we saw, usually 7, 9, and blank values. So, for example, the general health variable that we saw, it had 5 categories. What were the 5 categories? What did one stand for?
Ma'am, excellent.
Yeah.
Then very good, good, fair, poor.
Yeah, correct. So these were the 5 categories of general health variable. The 7 and 9, they meant blank or missing value. So when I tabulate it, obviously these values will also come because they are also identifying a category. But my useful categories are only 1 to 5. So I will subset the data. I will take the subset of the data such that, and the beauty of this part is that these values are numerical in nature. Sometimes they are string, so you have to check. If they are in string form and you have to subset it, then you have to convert them into integer or numeric form. And then only because this less than 7 will hold true only for numbers, it will not hold true for strings. So if I want only those variables 1 to 5, then probably I can just put a command. I can create a new data set, which will be a subset of the original data set, in which all the records, that means all the rows, records means rows, all the rows or records which have general health value less than 7 will be the valid records for my new data set. And then when I tabulate it, so look at it, tab data new. So this dollar sign is used in R to refer to the column values. So dollar general health means the column of data new called as general health. Now when I tabulate it, I can see that these are exactly the same values. The only difference is that I have removed 7 and 9. So in a very short step, what I have done is called as data cleaning or data processing. And this is only for one variable. So you just cleaned your variable general health for further analysis. Now any cleaning that you do later on for other variables must be done on this new data set, because now this is redundant. You cannot always do cleaning on the same data set. This is the reduced data set. Now, if you want to identify the valid values of diabetes or some other variable, you will create a subset of this particular data set. These are the commands which you can try going back after the lecture. I will also upload a working R file for all of you by tomorrow. So this distinction is clear, how we just clean the variable.
Yes, ma'am.
Similarly, so that was for summarizing the categorical variables. Similarly, you should try for other variables also which are categorical. So go back to that table that we just discussed, identify all the variables which are categorical and try to tabulate them in R or Python, whichever language you're comfortable in. So this will be the homework for all of you to summarize age, cholesterol, blood pressure, diabetes, diet, age, and exercise. And with the appropriate way, whether table or some other way, because diabetes was a continuous variable. And for continuous, we are yet to discuss how to summarize the variable. So dive age and BMI were essentially the two continuous variables. And we have already seen how to summarize a categorical variable by means of a table. We tabulate the variable and we try to understand what are the number of records in each category, and that way we have identified. And the second step, it is always good to know the percentage. If you remember, in our previous lectures, I had told you very clearly, it is the proportion and absolute number both which give us a fuller picture. This is not a business about either or. As good scientific practitioners, we should give both the numbers and the percentages. They together provide a better picture of what is happening in the data. Now, BMI is a continuous variable as we saw in its definition. And when I summarize it, so this is the command for summarizing any variable. You can do this for even categorical variable also. So summary of this particular variable, data new. So see, I have used the new data set, which was created after cleaning the general health, because slowly I want to arrive at my perfect data set which has no missing values for any variable. and this will obviously lead to reduction of the variable data set. So now this is my new data set, and for that I summarize the variable BMI. So the summary tells me that the minimum value of BMI seen is 12, the first quartile is 24, the median value is 27, the mean value is 28, third quartile is 34, and the maximum is 99.84, and there are 36,000 NA values. So these NA values I have to get rid of for my analysis. This summary output is clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't understand first quartile, second quartile, third quartile, that's okay. You can just focus on the median and mean value. I think you must have also read about the quartiles.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this is the way a continuous variable is summarized. And we see that there are NA values. So that is why looking at the summary of the variable is important, because as we saw in the previous slide, when we looked at the summary, we got hold of these values. If without removing these values, I try to create some model, my model will work in a very bad way, because it will work on these values also, but these values do not mean anything. So I have to remove these meaningless values for my better data set to taken into analysis, and then on the basis of the clean data, I can analyze. Similarly, for BMI, I have to get rid of not only these NA values, but also those values which seem very unreasonably high and cannot be expected with certain confirmation in the normal people. So the BMI value of 99, certainly I'm not saying a person cannot exist, but it is very difficult to imagine. And these values are better off discarded with sound reasoning, of course. And that sound reasoning will come when we look at how to summarize the BMI variable. So my first step is to remove the NA values. So I remove the NA values. Here I have given the same name to the data set. So I have not created, I have overwritten that data set by the same name. And in this command, I am checking that for every row, if the record is non-NA, I will introduce that record into my new dataset, and this comma means all the columns will come into picture. So all the columns for the rows in which BMI is non-NA will be my new dataset. So this is just a command. And to understand the distribution or the summary of a continuous variable, I always use histogram or frequency distribution. I hope you are familiar with histograms.
Yes, ma'am.
In maths, I think in 12th class, you must have studied histograms.
In maths also, and ma'am, in this in MTech also, we have done Python visualization. Na? So we have drawn that.
Okay, okay. Then
Yes,
it's
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
good. So for a continuous variable on a quantitative scale, I will look at histogram or frequency distribution of that variable to understand the distribution of that variable in my dataset. Don't focus on this command right now. I will come back to this. So when I draw the histogram of my BMI, this is how it looks like. What are your observations?
Ma'am, what do you have on the x-axis? This is 20, 40, 60
This is the BMI values.
BMI. Okay, okay. So okay. So I can easily say at near about at 25, the bar is going steep on 40,000 for the BMI as for the 40,000 frequency, you can say.
So
Sorry, 1
frequency
lakh
means
40.
number of people. It's a
Number
histogram,
of
right?
people. Yeah. So this is a peak at around 20 when the BMI of a person is near about 25 or somewhat. This is a
So we can say that most people's BMI lie in the range of 20 to 40. Okay. There are very few people who have BMI less than 20 and very few which have more than 40. Are you able to
Yeah.
follow?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So majority of my distribution of BMI lies between 20 to 40. Even though the maximum value was 99 as we saw, but this distribution is tapering off after 40. So when I look at this, I can clearly see that if I were to subset this data at 60, because here I can still see some values, then I will clean the data set in such a way that I only include BMI values which are less than 60 or less than 50 after looking at the histogram, obviously. So this gives me the logic of why I will decide a range for BMI values in my data set. Because after looking at the distribution, I can say that almost 95% of the observations of BMI would lie, at least 95% would lie less than 60. Because after 60, I'm not able to see any value. So I can say that majority of my data lies between say 15 BMI to 60 BMI. So what I can do is I then again create a subset of the data, and this time also I've overwritten the data. So I could have given a new name, but I'm overwriting on the original data. So I create the subset of this original data in such a way that the BMI value is less than equal to 50. So I have removed all the values which are greater than 50 after looking at the histogram distribution. There is something called as 95% confidence interval also. Sometimes based on that, we remove the values also. But that is a bit beyond this. I would just say look at the histogram, look at the distribution. When you see there are no values seem to be tapering off. A good thing would have been to do obviously less than equal to 60, because still I can see that there are people. But if you look at the frequency, they are very, very less. It should not make much of a difference. So when I subset the data and then I again look at the histogram, this is how it looks like. Now, what are your observations?
Most PMLI between 20 to 30.
Yeah. And in the last lecture, we talked about skewness. Which kind of skew is this?
I'm rightly skewed.
Rightly skewed. True. So it's a positive skewed distribution. So majority of BMI lie between 20 and 30, and for higher BMI, we don't see many cases. However, if someone would have been interested, they would have tried to know that overweight is at 25 and beyond 30 is obese. So if I were to ask you how many people in the data set are obese, so ideally you would count the length of these bars and add all of these to tell me how many people are obese. So now it looks much cleaner as compared to this one. This was histogram based on in the entire data set. However, when I looked at the histogram, I saw that nearly no values lie here. And then I went on to clean it, and this is my final data set in which general health has been cleaned and BMI has been cleaned. Similarly, when I said summarize the variable diabetes age, you will do exactly the same thing. You will summarize it, then remove the NA values. After removal of the NA values, you will try to look at the histogram. After looking at the histogram, you will tell me that beyond this age, I did not find any other person, and that is why I tried the subset at this particular point. So, this is how you summarize the continuous variable and clean it. Clear till here? Any questions? Are we still connected? Yeah.
Yes,
Any,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
any questions you have? Okay. And when I put the cap at 60, this is how the distribution becomes. So there are certain records even beyond 50. So it is always up to the researcher. It was good to put the cap at 60 because if I put at 50, then there is some information loss that is happening. But it would not be too grave to distort the results of your analysis too much. So that was about continuous variables. There is a different way to analyze continuous variables also, which is called as box plot. Box plot is basically a 5-number summary for the continuous quantitative variable, and it is nothing but what you saw in the summary of BMI. So this point tells about the minimum value. This is the first quartile, median, mean, third quartile, and maximum observation. And these are all the outliers. So the first quartile means if the first quartile is, so for example, the first quartile for BMI was 24. So it means that 25% of the values in this data set lie less than 24. So 25% of respondents in this data set had their BMI values less than 24%. That is called as first quartile. Median, as we know, divides the data into two halves. So we say that 50% of the people had their BMI values less than 27 and 50% had higher than 27. And similarly, third quartile, 75% less than 31 and 25% more than 31. So a box plot is another way to summarize a continuous quantitative variable, and it is also called as a 5-number plot. So when you look at the box plot of any variable, it is easy to understand. The interquartile range is basically Q3, the third quartile minus Q1, and that tells us about the spread of the data. So this is the BMI. This is the box plot of BMI in our variables. And as you can see, there are many values also beyond this maximum point. And sometimes people use box plots to put a cap. So sometimes people just want to put a data set which lies between minimum and maximum. But I would not advise that because this is working as per some predefined algorithm. If I only introduce data which lies around 42 and I remove this, then there is some information loss that is happening. So the good thing is to look at the box plot and to look at the histogram of the continuous variable and then try to take the decision of data cleaning or processing. The command in R to draw the box plot is box plot data $, the column name. So this was about the univariate analysis. I hope you take back something from this one. And before the next week's lecture, I will be releasing a quiz based on today's lecture and last time's lecture. And after that, we will go to the third lecture because getting a bit familiar with the concepts discussed in today's lecture and previous lecture will be very crucial to make any formidable progress in the next lecture. If you have any questions, please ask me. So this was about univariate analysis. Next lecture we'll be talk about bivariate analysis. So if I want to understand the relationship between two categorical variables. So what's the relationship between the diabetic cases and the male and female? Do males have higher diabetes cases or females have? So something like that. For this, I have used data from medical domain, but these apply to any other domain. Then analysis of one categorical and one continuous variable. And for two continuous variables, you already know. How do we analyze two continuous variables on a graphical scale?
Correlation.
Yeah. So we either draw the scatter plot and we look at the correlation coefficient. So all graph also and numerical summary also. Very good.
I mean, R, we don't have to declare any package for this visualization. You are doing a box plot or anything.
We have to. So if you just write the command and you try to run it, it will throw some error. That error will tell you what package is missing. So in R, if you want to install packages, you just go to tools. install packages. And here in the error, you will see which package is missing. So when the window opens, you just type that package's name and it will be installed. My system is running slow because lots of windows are open, but the idea is same. Go to tools, install packages, and then you just write the package name in the window that opens and it will get installed. So
Okay,
look,
ma'am, I will try.
yeah, look at the errors in this console. Error tells a lot. And the good thing about R is that it's in open domain, so you will always find solutions to your problems.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Any other question? I hope the session was useful.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, from R we can also draw the different types of